What's cool.
Yep.
Welcome to Leaf Sales with Ian Nethercott and Larry Feldman live.
If you look at the last 4 years again, we've answered 41 million phone calls for dealers over the last 4 years with our AI platform. We've also handled over 150 million text messages. And so when you look at just those raw numbers, that's a 4 to 1, 3.5, 4 to 1 text to phone call. So I don't know. Here's what I can tell you, though. I believe that the customer wants to be met where they are presently. If that is text, voice, video call, if they want to be engaged and engaged instantly.
Yeah, if you had some questions, just ask me. But this is the one I bought. You can buy it at Costco. Costco knows what they're doing. But yeah, it's, don't take any more than that and do your homework. I'm not responsible for side effects, but I've found that it helps with blood sugar and energy level. Also helps with hydration because it mixed with water. So most people aren't drinking enough water anyways. But Mr. Larry, how are you doing? How's the? I hear Russell's not feeling well, so I guess he's not going to be on. So
Russell said to say hello to everybody. He's a little under the weather. I am doing exceptionally well, Ian. I just had a really fun week. I'm at a Hyundai dealer,
okay.
and I got a ton of people for class. And on Tuesday, I got a call from a dealer who I was successful with in Florida, and they wanted to know if I would do their sister store,
Okay.
Pompano Honda. I said, with pleasure. And then I signed up an Auto Express tire shop. They needed some people. It was just a really busy, fun week.
Yeah, I heard some news today too that I don't know if you heard, but the former global director of marketing for Nissan just moved to General Motors. She's like, I'm out. Bye-bye. And also Penske's going private, eh? Penske's moving away from being a publicly traded group. I thought that was interesting. I didn't know they were owned by, part of them is owned by Mitsubishi. I didn't know that. But they're going public. They're going private. So that's been kind of the move. And there's been a couple other moves at Jeep. And I'm assuming if you're looking for a marketing job, Nissan's looking for somebody. But
that would be Ron's department.
Yeah, that's they lost their global head of marketing, so she was with them for like 10 years, which is a lion's age for Nissan. Also, I interviewed a gentleman from Car Bravo, which is General Motors' certified use program. So there's clips up now if you want to check it out. But he'll be in Detroit. But that was kind of interesting hearing about. You'll appreciate this, Larry. Back before there was email, General Motors got mail. There's a problem with my car. Can you help me? And they had to like coordinate with the customer and the dealer via phone calls.
Hey, let me mention that we always sometimes, well, not always, we sometimes talk about the negatives. And where I was last week in Florida and where I am this week, the managers are so hands-on and so involved. It not only is it a pleasure, but it feels so good to see that these things are going to come to fruition because, you know, when I'm there, things are exciting and everybody's pumped up. But when I leave, I fear that if there's no connection while I'm there, things are going to go by the wayside. But boy, is it great when you can get management to work with you. It's good for them. It's good for us. It's good for the customers. Hi, Gene. Thanks for joining us.
That's our topic, Larry. Hiring and firing. How can the dealership stop the revolving door?
Well, I'm going to give you my honest opinion on this. Ian, would it be fair to say, from the time you've known me, you've introduced me to a lot of people,
Yep.
that most of them come back and tell you I'm a little crazy?
That's okay.
But having said that, I've been married over 30 years.
Congrats.
I've had the same band for 30 years. To me, consistency makes much more sense than jumping all over the place. I can't tell you how many apps I see where a guy's been at 4 dealerships in 5 years, and then wonders why people aren't excited to hire him. Well, probably because in a year it'll be 5 dealerships in 6 years.
Yep.
It's easy to point your fingers at management, and it's easy for management to point their fingers at salespeople. But this is probably going to be the only time on this show that I quote Hillary Clinton. But it does take a village. You need a lot of people working together to make anything work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always interested when I see these dealers or dealer groups where the owner of the group actually gets on there and talks about their pillars. I think it was Rohrman I was watching something on today, but I've interviewed many people over 7 years, and I think I can count on one hand the people that have been with a group for more than 30 years. But recently I interviewed about 4 people that have been between 30 and 40 years at the same place, including manufacturers. I interviewed a guy from General Motors, as I was talking about. He's been there 40 years. So you don't see that too much. But to your point, Larry, I mean, they're looking for the grass over here or squirrel over that way, instead of actually saying, okay, what can I make work here? And more importantly, when you look at very successful dealers like Ben Stock's a good example. He's been there, I think, close to 40 years. When he first got there, he probably was surprised that they sold cars at a location that small if you ever haven't been there. But
I did work right down the block from him in Long Island City at a City Cadillac.
Yeah.
And I walked next door. I didn't know Brian at that point, but I walked next door. It's very small. It's very landlocked. I think, Ian, we could say it's foolishness on the part of the employees and management. It's foolish on the point of employees because the grass isn't greener.
No.
Guys think, well, I'll take my following with me. No, most of your following comes in and says, I'm looking for Ian.
Yeah.
He quit. Oh man, that's a shame. He was great. All right, I'm here. You can help.
Exactly.
And they don't realize that the way to build a career is repeat, referral, and stability. You're building your brand. If you keep switching up your brand, it took for the guys and lady that have been involved in this business a while. Remember the strange drop off that Datsun had when it became Nissan.
Yeah.
When you change names, when you change brands, when you change the concept of an easy identification, you lose. And as far as management, as it stands, I'm not the highest. I don't charge the most of recruiters, which is a shame because I do a better job than the other recruiters.
Yeah.
But even though I'm not super expensive, it costs to use me. Managers and owners should realize it's the old. It's an old blues R&B song. It's called "It's Cheaper to Keep." It's so much less expensive to grow the people you have rather than replace the people you have. Plus, there's always a little gap in between where you miss things or you're not busy. You don't have enough floor coverage, or somebody that was loyal to a specific mechanic or service advisor goes elsewhere. So I think it's one time you can point a finger at everybody. The owners and managers don't put enough emphasis on keeping people happy and building a community, and the people they quit to do what? Abdul, you've been around. Gene, you've been around. We all 3 know guys that divorced their wife for another woman, and after 3 years they wish they had their old wife back. Not only isn't the grass always greener, a lot of times the grass is dried out and burned out. So I think not to dig in where you are and not to make a stand where you are is a mistake.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did a show on Monday on retaining technicians in automotive, and it was, I think, higher registrations than the one on finding technicians. And the thing that was interesting about it was I had a number of technicians chime in on the stream, Larry, and they're all like, well, how come we can't have a show with a bunch of technicians on? I said, of course we can. But it was interesting because there were so many people with ideas on how to keep technicians. But one of the gentlemen on the show had a really interesting number that he shared. I think he said there's 358,000 technicians retiring, and there's only about 330,000 coming into the industry. But more importantly, the A and B techs, which are the master techs, those are the guys leaving. So if you're not only recruiting technicians, but then investing in them, how are you going to replace those guys that are leaving 20,000 more of them a year than they're coming in? Right.
Sometimes it's serendipity when you're trying to talk about something or correlate something. I had a really good class. Rhonda, if she hasn't already, will be posting the pictures. And the last guy that came in, on day 2 of my interviews, was a tech. And I said, gosh, I'm super glad to see you. Are you interested in jumping from the tech end to the sales end? And he said, man, anything but what I'm doing. But as I dug deeper, he wasn't complaining about the job. He was complaining about the way they treated him and the compensation. When I owned my store, I did everything I could to keep people intact because I knew how difficult it was to replace them. But I guess we just all, we all have our own individual blind spots, and we have to work around them. But, I'm very secure in the fact that I'm going to be busy as long as I want to be busy, because it's not like they need less people in fixed ops and in variable. Rhonda would be happy to hear that the large group that I mentioned to her reached out to me today for pricing, because all I did was tell them what I do and how I do it, and send them some pictures, and they called me back immediately. It's a problem. But I will say this, damning and saying nobody wants to work is not true. I had a whole class today of motivated people that want to work, that want to build a career. So it's not everybody. Maybe a part of society has gone away from the fact of taking pride in a work ethic. I think everybody on this program likes the feeling that I did a great job, I worked hard, I can look myself in the mirror. I'm not so sure that people younger than us don't grasp the fact that virtue has to be its own reward, because they're not giving out trophies for it. That if you don't understand the concept of I did my best, doesn't matter if you proved or not, I did my best. And that's a shame. That's a little scary. We're moving into very treacherous midterms for the United States. And we're seeing socialists take hold, which is the most frightening thought you could possibly have, because anybody that studied 2 seconds of history knows what happens when socialism/communism takes over. But I don't know how much you can beat people up, because younger people coming up don't learn what we learned in school. So, if you start talking to me in ancient Greek, I'm in trouble because I don't speak ancient Greek. I guess that's the expression. It's all Greek to me.
Well, check out that debate in Maine where they tried to replace that guy who dropped out, and nobody had an argument. Like, none of the candidates had an argument. They really tried to help him.
Let me ask Gene, because he's easily amused. Did you see the debate that he's talking about, Gene?
No, I did not.
Oh, man. It's like a comedy skit.
Let me illuminate and elucidate.
Okay.
I studied history and political history. I'm not an expert, but I'm a student. And we all know that, I'll veer off track to veer back on. Bill Clinton was one of the greatest politicians that ever lived. He slept with every woman in Arkansas. And did a whole bunch of insane things, but when he looked into the camera and said, I feel your pain, we believed him. Good politicians, no matter how radical, right or left they are, they move to the center, which is what Clinton did. He met with Newt Gingrich and cleaned up welfare and the deficit. But we no longer are afraid to say out loud what we're really feeling, no matter how stupid it is. So they got these 4 people. If you're not following me, they put a guy up that had a Nazi tattoo on his chest. He was accused of sexual violence
Twice.
And all the Democrats wanted to do was get him in. They didn't care if he was the devil. They just wanted to get the edge, in the Senate. So they get these 4 replacements. Gene, I gave you advice the other day. I bet when you hung up, you said, boy, Larry's crazy, but that was good advice, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you called, and I'm not giving away any secrets with Gene, he just had a couple thoughts. And if I said, Gene, what you want to do is set yourself on fire, literally, and run to the dealership. Or what I would do is I would date the owner's daughter and get her pregnant, and then they'll have to hire you. You would say, I am never calling Larry Feldman again. There's something wrong with him mentally. The reason I'm saying it that way is you would figure once you had a guy that wore a Nazi tattoo and was accused of sexual violence, as Mr. Nethercott pointed out twice, you would go in a different direction. You would find people that were logical, fair, smart, expressive. Honest to God, I thought this was a Saturday Night Live skit because the people were so outrageously bad and incompetent that you were thinking, this isn't possible. They asked, why should you be a candidate? Now you could say, I'm passionate about my country. I want to improve people's incomes, whatever it is. They went through these 4 people and it got dumber and dumber until they got to, and I'm not being disrespectful, I'm just calling it like I see it, a transvestite. This was a woman that looked like a linebacker wearing a dress.
An ugly dress.
When they pointed at her and said, why would you be a good candidate? She did not say, because I am a constitutionalist, because I'm a revolutionist. She said, Ian, tell him if I'm lying. Well, I'm a singer-songwriter, and I know, but I've applied for a lot of jobs. It was like she was basically saying, here's why you should never vote for me.
Oh, I write my own book. She said I write my own books, or he, she, whatever that is.
Yeah. It's you know, you have to have a sense of propriety. You know, our current president, who I am a fan of, I just every once in a while I wish he would shut up because he just can't help but say one thing too many. He's the guy that would talk his way out of the deal. But I let him get away with it because other than his recent kerfuffle, I believe he's on the side of America and the side of Israel. And I think he really does want to see schools be better and people make this thing he did for the kids, the $1,000. That's brilliant. You're investing people in a society where people feel divested. But the impropriety we have for people to say stuff that just doesn't make any sense, it just eludes me. I again, and then I'll shut up and get off and let everybody else talk. I watch the news a lot, too much. My wife's always hollering, can't we watch something else? I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. I saw Jasmine Crockett accuse the World Cup of being racist. And she said it's because everybody was voting for Spain. No, I mean Argentina. So you're making an argument about racism. You don't know which team is racist, and you don't know why they're racist. I don't know. When I do something stupid, and says that was stupid, I go, I'm sorry, Rhonda, I won't do it again. I don't know.
Well, if you want some entertainment in your life, and I know Saturday Night Live hasn't been funny since the '80s, this is like the same. But the sad thing about it is, these are real people. They're not like they can be on Saturday Night Live. They're that bad, but it's like these are actual people they think can run. This is craziness.
Ian and Rhonda have seen me on stage. I almost got Gary Silman, but it was his daughter's graduation. That was much more important. Michael Larkin's here. He'll back me up. As much as I try to be funny and laugh and have stuff, when I get in front of people, it's so important to me to be professional and to pull them in a direction to be successful. Gene, I go out on a limb, I correct them because I want to make them better. I think it would be an insult to take people for 2 days and not make them better. I'm an adult. I'm a crazy adult, but I'm an adult. It seems like we've let children out of kindergarten and we're running them for all kinds of positions. It just seems like we're looking at people that aren't serious. I'm not saying you can like somebody or not like somebody, but it just seems like they're not serious because of the things they say and the actions they do and what happens. But if you haven't seen the debate, pull it up on YouTube. It's the 4 main candidates, and you will say, this can't be real, this has to be a skit. Mike Larkin, Gary Silman, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
We're going for 16.
Yep, exactly. The Red Sox won this afternoon, 15, and they're playing right now. Very cool. Blair.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. I got to say something to you and Larkin. Have you ever read The Summer of '49 by David Halberstam?
No, but you mentioned that.
David Halberstam won the Pulitzer for the best and the brightest. It's about the Vietnam War. He was one of America's greatest authors. but he was also a huge sports nut. And he wrote what I think is the best basketball book ever written, The Breaks of the Game. It followed the Portland Trailblazers around the year after Walton was injured, and they shot him up with narcotics to get him through the games, and they beat my Sixers. But he loves baseball, and he wrote great baseball books. But one book he wrote, it's almost like mythic. He wrote about the year that it looked like the Red Sox were finally going to beat the Yankees because DiMaggio was hurt. And you talk about a clutch player and a great player, but where some of his books are challenging, this is like a massage for your brain if you like baseball. It's such a gentle book, and it's so brilliantly written. I suggest anybody that's a baseball fan, particularly you guys living where you live, you could probably pick it up on Amazon for $4 or $5, or get the audio book. It's amazing. Summer 49 by David Howard.
I put the YouTube link if you want some 80s Saturday Night Live nostalgia moments from a current debate.
Oh, that's very funny.
I'm telling you, you'll watch it, you'll be like, really?
Larry, I wanna. When I jumped in, you were talking about technicians leaving and not having enough technicians coming in.
Yep.
And I'll always refer to Mike Rowe because he screams it, and he's been screaming it for years now, and he is making some progress.
You know what Mike Rowe is?
Yep.
He's one of the greatest living Americans.
Yep.
Dirty
He's a
Jobs.
guy who's
Dirty Jobs
pushing
guy.
everybody forward. He class act. I read his books. I saw a movie he did. This is a true great American. Him and the guy from Tunnels for Taffy.
I was just gonna say, and then you've got Gary Sinek.
Yeah,
He's
Gary
another
Sinek.
one.
Yeah.
Sinise.
Rhonda is the cynic amongst us. Gary Sinise is the guy that was in that
I think
movie,
you're talking Simon Sinek, different guy.
Let me
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, right.
Let me give you a scenario today. I went out in the field, and right now, I'm really excited about the equipment and agricultural dealers.
100%.
It's a different industry. Now, I've been fortunate to put a deal together with a local dealership called United Ag and Turf, and they have 50 locations that they bought over the last several years in New England. The general manager gets it. And the general manager saw the value that I brought with one of my products called AgGuard, and that we start where the manufacturer stops. So he and I have been engaged and working on it. And today I came in with a lifetime battery for a very inexpensive price.
Yep.
And within 4 hours, I got an email from him saying, how do we get started? And, he loved everything. He loved everything that I was talking about. So this leader, this general manager with salespeople in a United Ag and Turf is focused. And they're going to grow. And he introduced me to the service manager, and he introduced me. So that is awesome. So we do find areas of opportunity. Now, I went to 4 or 5 other dealerships, and I ended up walking into this one dealership, and I knew I was in trouble. The lady had, I don't know if it was pink or purple hair, and it was just glaring. And so I said, hi, I'm Gary Silman, and I introduced myself, and I said, I see that you're selling lawnmowers. So I have a program that you can offer to your customers on the lawnmower that can give you some better customer service. And she says to me, do I have to do more paperwork? And I'm like, excuse me? Of course you have to do. You've got to. She goes, oh, we're not interested. And so I looked at her. I just threw her card into the garbage because what I had 3 or 4 people very interested. Thought it was. A lifetime battery for $89 dealer cost on any piece of equipment that has a 12-volt battery. you're going to replace that battery 3 or 4 times. It's an absolute no-brainer. Out of the, I think I saw 7 or 8 people. Half of them thought it was fantastic, and they want to move forward, and they want to learn how to do it. And half of them had no interest in any of it to try to either, number one, help their customer, or number two, generate some extra income, or open up a conversation. So we created this, and it's you've got to find the workers and the ones that want to work, and stay clear of the ones that have to make whatever kind of excuse they want. And as Mike Larkin will say, any excuse
will do.
Have you talked to JB at Preston?
I'm sorry?
Have you talked to JB Burnett at Preston?
Yeah. I've looked at that program.
No, but you may want to talk to JB because this is going to be the funniest thing you heard. So he was supposed to be on the show that I do a couple weeks ago, and his wife's car was dead on the side of the road. I said, "Did you check the battery?" He says, "Yeah, I tried to jump it. It's like a, I don't know, Tahoe or Escalade or something." And of course, it's the battery. So it may be a good conversation. But the other guy is I think it's Pocahontas, or anyway, they've got an interesting guide with them. It's another one that's in your neck of the woods. But the other one you should really look at, it's a small company called Finning. They're a Caterpillar dealer in 4 countries. They may be interested. They're a big company.
The equipment, I am so, I guess, relieved or thrilled that I have an industry that wants to learn, that wants to get better. It's like, I go to a car dealership, I talk to a couple people, send us some information, I send them information in my emails box. So it's like, how in the world do they operate under these circumstances? And then I go back and I say, hey, my email was blocked. What do you mean? I said, can you check like it was quarantined? And then I go and ask them, I said, do you know that you're probably blocking customers? Why, if you've got filters on all of your emails and everything, how do you get, it's bizarre out there. So what I'm finding refreshing is that you do have people that want to get better in other industries. And they basically, I get people that were in the auto industry and they're so much happier in the industry because they get to help each individual one at a time. And they're solving the farmer's problem. They're solving the construction guy's problem. No, you don't need a backhoe, you need a skid steer. And so they're helping each different individual in different matters. So
independent shops are the same way though too. For repair shops, because we went and brought them an AI agent and talked to them about generative SEO almost 5.5 years ago.
Really?
And they were all about, we want to have an AI agent that can handle our phone calls, that can schedule our appointments. And that was the very first time I had really worked on a project with a friend of mine, and we had built that really for them. Now it took us 2 years to really build it out well, because they have all kinds of fragmented systems that talk to each other that aren't like, adding an API in CDK or Xtime.
Oh yeah, no, they're logging into 5 or 6 different
systems. It's crazy for their parts, for their stuff. It's like they have 3 different parts systems to figure out anything, and then their quoting systems on a different software, to check person out. So I mean, there was probably 5 or 6 different programs that we had to work with, and they weren't, half of them couldn't take an API, so we had to actually figure out how to build their site up too. And like I said, after a couple of years though, it works great. So when I decided to bring it to automotive, and dealers were looking at me like, well, they don't want to pay for this. But yet I'm like laughing because they turn around to buy an AI agent from somebody for $2,500 when in reality I'd offered some for $499.
Right. They're tripping over.
And it did the same thing. And it did sales and service, not just sales. A friend of mine is paying $5,000 for an AI agent for, you know, $2,500 for sales, $2,500 for service, to handle it, you know, like a chat widget, and the other one does all the scheduling, and sure, it can handle phone calls. And it is a good product, don't get me wrong. It's just $5,000 versus $500 blows my mind.
Well, we know that the dealers today are so confused about AI, and they think that AI is going to solve their problems. And boy, are they in for a rude awakening. Right? I mean, it's just, you know, I'm looking forward to having you on the show on Friday, because it's, you know, listen to people who understand and that have been working it, and realize that there's too many shiny pennies out in the market, and everybody's just pitching AI, but they're not solving the first original problem. If you don't have a process that allows the customer to go through and your people to hand it from one source to another, you're broken. And you got to fix that before you can start bringing in AI agents to solve problems. And, you know, there's a lot of education that needs to be done, and we're watching a lot of failures right in front of us. And then they're going to wonder why their ads and their leads have dropped off, and they have to rebuild what they have messed up.
Well, the problem is the tech debt that goes along with it. What people don't realize is that creating AutoG for independent shops over those periods cost $500,000 to develop in tech debt. Right? And then a lot of these other companies, they build it up, they have big payrolls, they have people out selling it, and they get to a point where they built it up, they have X money, but they have to sell it just to get out of the debt that they're into. And, you know, that's the other problem, is that a lot of these companies are faking it until they make it too.
Yep.
Because your AI agent has to learn. But like what you said, the problem is we get the best AI agent. And I would say that probably 70-80% of them work pretty well for their purpose. But at some point, it becomes a human-to-human interaction. And if the human-to-human interaction fails, we got to call HR.
Yeah.
But the other problem, David, it's funny, I got a call this week from a PR company that works for an AI company that wanted to have them on the show. And so she's giving me this whole spiel, which was basically just that it solves everything and it's magic and, you know, walks on water and all this stuff. And I said, you know, I get calls 3 times a week on this, right? And she said, what? I'm like, yeah, like, what is it you're actually doing? Like, it's great that you think it's everything and it's magic and it's like going to take me to the moon. And that's great. But like, what are you actually doing?
It's crazy because now with vibe coding, you can do anything. A friend of mine, and some of you guys know Joe Chambers.
Yeah.
So he called me and said, hey, I want to build this product. We were talking about this in a SDL a couple times. And I want to build this that'll help me, you know, streamline my position, my job. I wanted to make something easier for my service writers, and it does all this, you know, and I said, okay. So he's talking to me about it. I said, well, I have it, GPT, it's a service writing mastery, and it already has a lot of that knowledge base in there. I said, so what are the things you want it to do? So he listed off like 15 different things. While we were talking, I rebuilt that GPT that I had already with a base for fix. I added in his topics. It asked me about 15 different questions. And before I knew it, I built another GPT and I said, oh, by the way, can you send me an RO with other customers' information on it so I can audit what you just asked me to build? And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, I just built it. And I said, no, I can take the base of this and give it to my software guy and they'll build it into an actual app or something like that for you. And you have dealer track, so it's easy for me to integrate there. And he's like, I thought this was going to be like 3-month, 4-month project. And I said, no, I need an RO and I can audit it for you right now. Just give me a couple ROs. Just take customers' information off of it. And he goes, oh, I'll do it. I said, tell you what, forget it. I'll just come over Thursday. But with AI, anybody with half a brain that has a solution that they want to try to fix can build it. The problem is, can you get it to speak with multiple agents? Can you get it to work? Does it have the security? Is your tech stack ready for it? And the biggest question is is your culture okay with accepting it? Does your culture want it? Are they going to use it? Because I think I told you guys before, I built a bunch of these GPTs strictly for my son after I had my stroke. And I wanted to build it for him so that it could help with my legacy and would help him in the car business with any position he ever wanted to work in a dealership. But I can tell you on one hand how many of those he's ever logged into. I spent like a month and a half building them for him, and he didn't log in anyway. So then I just repurposed them and used them at different stores or my friends and said, I have a training tool here, I'll copy it and give it to you. And now you can put it in your BDC. Now you can give it to your F&I manager. Now you can give it to your HR person. Now you can give it to your sales managers. Now you can give it to them explaining vehicle acquisition. And, you know, after I built hundreds of these things, I started really figuring out who's using them. And then I realized nobody wants to use them.
Exactly.
Unless you force them to do it. Unless it really helps them do their job and build value and watch them and make them. But if you're not there to coach them all the time and then inspect what they do, they just go back to their old ways. And I think that's what happens with a lot of vendor products.
It's that way with everything. And by the way, your legacy is very secure, other than that one black mark about this program used to come on every Wednesday night at 7 p.m.
I love those guys. I love those guys.
How are you?
Yeah.
We're talking about hiring and how short-sighted managers are not to realize it's much less expensive to keep the people you have, and how so many salespeople think the grass is greener when the grass is burnt and fried up. So you're like me, you recruit a lot. So what are your thoughts?
Is that really the topic?
Watch this, guys. When I lie, I'm a car salesman.
Hiring and firing, Sandy.
Firing. I mean, it's the big. We've been talking about it forever and ever and ever and ever. Right? I just gave a session with Beth Lucchese, who's with CMA at WIA, and part of it, what it was really about, was changing the narrative of people and getting into automotive by accident and changing that to doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about this before, and at CMA, they're doing it. And I think part of the challenge is that any initiative, we love throwing spaghetti at the wall and see which noodle stays up, right? I just made that up. I don't know if
Clear to make that slightly inappropriate.
Right. Oh, all right. And the thing is we have this, we live so much in this 30-day cycle. So, and I'm bringing that up because one of the questions I asked Beth in the session was, okay, so part of the reason Beth does what she does, and she is the dedicated community outreach. She creates the internships that are happening. And so it's a dedicated resource, first of all, right? Like Liza told me that story, and it took a while to get the GMs on board, right? But then they all got on board, and they have lowered their turnover by 9 points over. It's taken years, right? But they have like 30. It's somewhere around 30 flat rate techs now that started out as lube techs, and now they're flat rate, right? It takes time, and it takes intention, and you have to know what you're doing. But I've talked about this particular topic for years and years and years. Like, it's not rocket science.
It shouldn't be.
It really isn't rocket science. We need leaders who are more emotionally intelligent to be able to attract and retain. You can attract people, but what do you got? What do they get when they get there? Right? It's an ecosystem. You have to have an employee value proposition that you're selling. Just like if you're selling a product, your product, if you're an employer, is your company. Like, what is in it for them? What are the benefits? Why should they come and work for you? What are the great things about coming and working at your dealership and not the one down the street? There's so many stores who are always looking for people, and I believe that the really, really smart dealers are going to start paying attention to this, Because, yeah, go ahead.
Andy, question. How many women were at your conference this weekend?
Oh my God, 450 easy.
Well, see,
I helped put together 400 and something bags.
well, what I look at is there's 450 leaders, and you had passionate people together, all trying to figure out a common good. And so I think that the talent pool needs to come from different segments. And the women in automotive, they follow instructions. They're passionate.
Gary, can I? So my question, because I don't think you're wrong, right? My question about this is, why have we been talking about this? I've been around since 1998. The needle hasn't moved really from 20%, right? This is what I'm saying. Like we keep doing. It's the definition of insanity. We keep doing
The same thing and
expecting something different to happen. However, we are in an environment, and this is important. This is what I was getting ready to say. We are entering into an environment where some people want to argue the point. Actually, Beth doesn't really believe that there's a labor shortage, but there really is a labor shortage. Right now, there's about, if you look it up, it'll tell you like nationwide, there's 75 job seekers for every 100 job openings. This changes regionally. I think like California has a surplus of job seekers, where North Dakota, South Dakota maybe has half. So, but that's not all. We are entering in a time where by 2030, 75 million boomers are exiting the workforce. Right? This is where a lot of our industry knowledge that the companies hold, the experience and skill is, right? So we have a transfer problem too, because we need to transfer it to somebody. That somebody is right now, millennial and Gen Z make up 65% of the workforce. 65. Gen Xers, believe it or not, like the oldest Gen Xers in a few years, we're starting to exit. I don't think that my generation is staying as long as boomers did. I know I'm not. I want to be done, right? I've been working, and I think a lot of my generation, this is just a theory that I have. I don't know if it's true. Let's test it. Who's Gen X in this room?
What's Gen X?
Gen X is from
after baby boomers, between them and millennials.
So like 1965, 66?
65.
60.
Okay. All right. So we're Gen Xers.
67.
Oh, I'm 67. So you're in. All right. So I've been working since I was 11 years old, at least 20 hours a week. Who else has been working since they're like a teenager, a young teenager? Great. So I think we're done, right?
I should have been done.
This is why
Somebody forgot to tell me to be done.
Right now.
I could never be done.
So, but
I'll work on no more.
Oh well,
I'll never stop.
Are you an Xer?
No, I'm 67, so.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
you're a Gen X.
You're Gen X.
Am I? Okay.
Yes. So we're an older Gen Xer. So anyway, the Gen Alpha, which will begin entering the workforce in the year 2030, which is 3.5 years away, is half the size of millennial. Half. So we've got this giant generation that's exiting. And we have a big hole with a tiny pebble that we have to fill it with.
It's all the millennials' fault. They should have had more kids.
Well, they can't afford it, which is why they didn't. The millennial generation is the first generation that did not hit certain milestones that their parents hit at the same age, like buying their first home, having their first child, right? Like this is all gonna affect us in a short time period. Like COVID was 6 years ago, but fast forward 6 years. So all of that to say, employers need to, especially dealers, we all need to pull our heads out of our butts.
Why do they have a hard time hiring people in our age group though?
Oh, there's a terrible. Well, I think
It's like you can't get hired at this age, really. That's the other thing is that I don't know how many people I've talked to, and they're just like, "You're too old," and they literally haven't said that to me. But I know people at the company who are like, "They don't hire people your age."
Yeah,
They
but
said,
I think,
even though you know more than they
That's
know about
terrible.
AI, they
but
said you understand AI and marketing better than anybody in our company, but we'll never hire you at this company. I interviewed with him in Oak Brook, and my buddy who works there. And he's a lot younger. He's my buddy's son, actually. But he's part of the executive team. And he's like, they will never hire you because you're too old.
it's behaviors like
I'm like,
that.
What the fuck?
It's behaviors like that create laws, that create
Yeah, it's their national chain.
right.
And, and then I literally had somebody tell me the other day that said, Dave, I would love to hire you and have you come to work at our company. She goes, but I'd have to put you on enterprise sales. And I couldn't do that to you at your age and knowing your health background and stuff like that.
what?
She goes, I would put you in a performance manager role in a heartbeat. So
You're
then I
doing like
texted her
a
and I said,
commercial for me.
yeah, I texted her and said, your performance manager's leaving.
You're doing a commercial for the things not to say.
Oh, of course not. No,
Right.
she's a friend, but we're on a Zoom call and we're talking about work. And she tells me that, and I'm just like, okay, well, I know so-and-so, and, I know 3 of the women in power at this company, and it was a woman that, she just came and said outright to me, she goes, Dave, I've known you for years. I would never hire you as an enterprise salesperson, even though we have an opening right now. She goes, and I know you could do it, but your age and your health freaks me out. And that's what she told me. I'm like, well, thank you.
I'm gonna put double in the jar because that's fucked up.
It is.
But let me give you a learning. Let me give you a learning for HR shows from the show that I did on money. I'm learning. So I've been doing HR shows and on and up show for on and off for 7 years. I've tried every possible topic. I've tried every way to get people to show up. But you know what the magic title is?
What?
How to retain anything. So retain technicians, retain sales staff. I've done 2 shows on technicians. One how to find them, one how to retain them. The highest numbers ever. I had close to 100 on the show on Monday. I had almost 100 on the last one. I think the next show to do is on sales, and the same thing. How to retain salespeople. Stop worrying about the churn. Start retaining the people you have. You're not going to find better people. It's not going to happen. So retain and train. Do that.
Let's try to put Larry out of business.
No, well, it won't put them out of business. It'll just be, obviously you tried for 50 years doing it the other way. It hasn't worked. So what you've got to do is figure out how to do it smart, especially when, to your point, Sandy, you don't want to hire the experienced people because they're too old. You complain about the millennials you hire because they're lazy. You complain about the Gen Z you hire because they're difficult. The baby boomers are out. If they're not already out, they will be. So what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to solve for X? How are you going to do that? Well, you got to retain the people you have. Maybe you can recruit as well, but you've got to retain who you have. You have to do that.
I think every BDC I visited recently and every sales floor that I visited and every shop I visited has said, I'm short on technicians, I'm short on salespeople, and I'm short on BDC.
Yep.
And Sandy hit it on the head, though, is that why should I fucking come to work for you with all these other people that are younger than us? Because there's no reason that they didn't want to go work at a lot of these places. It's different, than what it was 20 years ago. You wanted to be in sales. I wanted to make money. I wanted to have a career doing it. But a lot of people, they don't want these hours. They don't want this type of level of abuse. Because it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. I watch it every day when I go into stores.
David, when we got into the business, hold for 1 second. When we got into the business, it was simple. Where can I go to make the most money? Now, quality of life is almost more important, and it's astonishing.
And I think it's great, but you got to work.
But think about how dumb the dealers are. What would be wrong with giving people off one Saturday a month?
Yeah.
It would change their whole perspective. It'd give them something to look forward to. It really wouldn't push anything because if your staff is well trained enough, you're in good shape. And Ron, don't worry about me being put out of business. Okay, the 2 things you never have to worry about are recruiters and prostitutes. There will always be a demand.
And you gotta listen. You gotta listen to your staff. What is it they want?
Right now.
Yeah. What is it they want? I mean, we had
By the way-
technicians chiming
way,
in on the
David,
show saying, "Hey,
The
no one listens."
prostitutes don't care how old you are, or what your health situation is.
As long as you have cash money, they don't care.
And David, I just want to say thanks for basically doing a commercial for my boot camp training
You're welcome.
managers, right? To what to say and not to say to a
Well,
candidate.
please use this because I've literally had some awesome interviews
I-
recently.
Have you? I used my own too. That
Yeah.
I had a call and said,
But I am kind of mad at you though, because Larkin told me to make sure that I come on the show tonight, that you're going to show us the pajama pictures from Women in Automotive. I'm like, where's the pajama pics? Huh?
I actually took a nap at the gym.
See?
I
Okay.
I don't have
You
any.
sure you're not a boomer?
And everybody had no, because I went out dancing till 2:30.
Okay.
Wait a minute. David
That was
Rosick
Saturday night.
just asked Sandy for lingerie pictures of women.
I did not say
First
lingerie.
of all, we
It's
were
the
not.
first time. It's the first time I've ever been on a show where I'm the one that's not in trouble.
Oh,
Well,
we did
you know
not
what's
have
funny?
lingerie.
I had about 15 pictures from women in Automotive in the pajama. Hugging each other, sending it to me, going, you're not here. I'm like,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, I did have mine on like the next day. They're
It's amazing how we can segue into HR to pajama parties on this show.
yeah.
But you know what? It was a great conference. It really was a great conference.
I heard that. I'm so upset that I missed it.
I would. You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see a conference that had so, and the content was great. It really was. There were so many wonderful speakers, and especially on the keynote stage. I would like to see, but there was not a lot of participation or attendance by men, and not a lot of dealers. I mean, there were some dealers, right? I'd love to see a conference powered by women, because let me tell you something. For every single detail of this conference was amazing, right? Like from beginning to end, from little things on the table that you don't think about, every piece of it was amazing. But I'd love to see a conference that everybody couldn't wait to go to because dealers couldn't wait to get there.
I just think it needs to come to Chicago next year, Women in Automotive.
However,
Though they need to double the amount of people that go to next year.
I mean, I think this was the biggest one yet. It really was. It was
Right.
and the best. I mean, like I had some moments where I was laughing so hard I almost didn't make it to death. Like laughing that hard. And in life, if you get to have those moments where you just hold your stomach because it hurts because you laughing so hard, it's.
Hey, Larkin, tell her to come to my place.
Hey, can I say something? It's Christian.
Exactly.
Can I say something kind of silly about that? Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but Women's in Automotive, I'm ignorant. I really didn't realize that it was like an open conference. I thought it was like geared towards women in automotive. And I saw a couple guys there, but I mean, like Lou and Fred and some of those people, I thought, well, they're just rubbing things and that type of a deal. So, to be honest with you, I'd have loved to go on. You spoke, Riley, my friend Lori Foster from Cars.com. I'd love to see those people. So now that I know that, a knucklehead like me just didn't really realize it. Something women in automotive, so everything, all the content's geared towards women, excelling in automotive. So shame on me for not asking enough questions.
I mean, I'm sorry that you didn't know, Christian. It's not a conference where there are a lot of sales things are going on. There's no booths. There's not,
It's on me, but I'm just saying, if I thought that, maybe there's other knuckleheads like me that didn't realize that. A couple things. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm not the leader. I'm not.
We didn't hear from my buddy Abdul. Christian, I was just about to call you. Abdul, what's on your mind, my brother? And Gene. Gene,
It's really interesting because it's great hearing from everybody as far as perspective of hiring and firing. And I was very fortunate to be in a huge auto mall where we really retained and trained. But the biggest thing was because it was a huge mall, a big majority. I was there for 24 years. and you're right, the smaller ones that don't pay attention to training, and also like Larry said, it's much harder. It's 3 times as hard, as expensive to retrain a new hire than train the one that you have already that knows about 75-80% of the stuff. And
No, wait a minute, I want to amend what I was saying. What I was saying is the worst mistake a dealer can have is complacency. They should fire as many people as they can as often as possible. Larry Feldman, Career Changers USA.
okay.
Is that so that they'll do just the opposite of what you say?
No, that only works for
psychology.
if you want your kids to do what you want them to do, tell them not to do it, and then we'll definitely do it. Yeah, that worked great.
Right, the reverse
Exactly.
psychology.
Well, boy, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I got it. I got you. It's pretty good in there, and of course the participation of women, like Sandy said, it's increasing, but not to the level that you would think. In there.
That's because
But,
Bruce Springsteen is wild. He calls himself the boss. You know who the boss is? Mrs. Springsteen. They influence 80% of the decisions and buy 60% of the cars. And when they come in, it's like they're in a strip club. We look at their butts, we flirt with them, we ask them if they're coming back with their husband. We are the dumbest industry on earth when it comes to handling the people that make the decisions. The dumbest.
Very true.
All right, Gene, only because we're nearing the end and we haven't heard from my buddy Gene.
Or Christian.
Well, Christian looked up. He said he felt guilty about missing the party because he heard there was pajamas.
No.
Gene,
Go ahead, but I do have a party thought.
well, Gene is apparently not unmuting. Maybe he's on a call or something. Christian, what's on your mind?
Well, you were talking about this. I mean, it's a big problem, obviously. It's a $2 billion a year problem as far as we're talking about hiring and firing. There's so much to it. I could hear Sandy kind of exasperate. It's like, hey, we've been talking about this forever, and there's so many moving parts. I mean, you got the orientation, you got the recruiting, you got the training element, you got the interviewing. So, yeah, onboarding, so all of these elements. But just a couple things I'd share that I've learned over my couple of years here in this biz. And when it comes to salespeople, 2 things I always look for were, a high level of warmth. But you got to be careful with that because they also have to have, a lot of times when they have too much warmth, they don't have ego strength. You've got to have this ego strength to be able to take that rejection. So it's kind of a certain individual that can have that warmth and that charisma and on the warmth, but they don't, they're not a jackass, but they, by the same token too, do not get discouraged. So that'd be one that I think is a good thing to look for. And then one thing that I learned that I used to do terrible, so it's a huge mistake I made, and I've got a ton of managers do it, and that is they fall into confirmation bias. So early on, they say something, I like the suit, you like this job that he did or she did, and so they fall into confirmation bias, and whether they know it or not, now they're searching for reasons to like this person and hire this person throughout. So Danny Kahneman, who won Nobel Prize in economics because they didn't have one for psychology or behavioral science, he came up with this system that I used towards the end there at the dealers, and that is the first set. I always ask the same set of questions, and the first set of questions are more objective questions because you want that objectivity, and that keeps you from slipping into that bias. But then you still want to have some subjective questions as well, but you say those towards the end, and that's how you can block yourself from falling into this confirmation bias and hiring some guy that you just like. So anyway, there'll be a couple thoughts. And then last but not least, I do think the Saturday Night Live was kind of funny in the early 90s, and I'm a Generation X as well.
Yeah, but how do you beat a show at the beginning that had Dan Aykroyd and Belushi? I mean,
you can't.
The most underrated performer in that whole series is Aykroyd. Not only was he brilliant and a brilliant writer. All right, before we jump off, my man, Mr. Larkin, had his hand up. Let's get you in for the final comment there, Michael.
Just as far as hiring and firing, we talked about this on Clubhouse this morning, and I always, from a Navy family, I always liken it to, if you don't have your mission, vision, values, and you don't have it documented, Like Russell Hill says, if it's not on paper, it's vapor. But if you don't have the mission, vision, values, and other things lined up, and you don't have everybody on board, it's like a ship without a rudder, and you're going round and round and round, hiring and firing. It's a consistent, vicious cycle. And I want to work with those companies that are on an upward trajectory, on the growth map, and not going round and round and round. I'm too old. I get dizzy. So
Shut up about it.
don't have your mission, vision, values, and other stuff. Then be prepared, because you're
And
going
if
round
you
and
don't
round.
have your
Or
mission
you won't
values, and if you don't have your mission values, Larry Feldman, Career Changers USA.
That's where I wanted to wrap up. is
Everybody's
you
missing
in
those
your
until Friday.
In your training, as far as that goes, Larry, you had everybody say their why, their philosophy on. But does the company, that those people that were hired, do they know their philosophy and pass that on to those new hires or any hires? The guy that cleans the toilet, he ought to know the mission.
Yeah, but Michael, you saw the guy that came into class, who I trained a couple years ago, and is now a star there. He gets it.
Yeah, Marshall.
David, do we have you set for Friday?
I'm all set to hang out with you guys.
Okay,
on
listen,
Friday.
everybody, Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard, Mr. Larkin, Mr. Selman, and I have a show called the Big Idea Podcast, and our guest this week is David Rosen.
Thank you.
And David, we almost didn't have you on because of your age and health, but I pulled a couple strings.
Next you're gonna say the people that look like me should just be washing cars.
Bro, you look good to me, brother. You're always willing to help people. That looks beautiful to me. All right, guys.
It's not age. It's about your attitude that matters, man. If they don't respect age, that's their problem.
I don't get out, start swearing.
We appreciate you being on. Tune in on Friday, 3 p.m. And you'll see Mr. Rozak shine. Everybody stay healthy. Thank you so much.
David,
David, text messages.
Thank you for helping the industry get better today live.